We're giving you perspective from all sides of the aisle. This morning, you will hear from both the Democrat and Republican. Democratic Congressman from Washington and ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, Adam Smith, and Republican Congressman from Texas and House Ways and Means Committee member Nathan Moran. So we're going to start things off with Congressman Adam Smith. We want to thank you very much for joining us. And I've got to ask you first about Gaza. Are you satisfied with Israel's tactical pause? This is about 10 hours a day is what they're allowing for some aid to get to Gazans. A smart move?
Yeah. Well, it's a smart move. It's not enough yet. And look, without question, the war continues in large part because Hamas will not release the hostages. And we can't forget the role that Hamas is playing in this. But Israel needs to do a lot more to bring humanitarian aid in. I think it is a mistake to have done it the way they've done it thus far. We've seen the results. It hasn't worked. I think we need to have cooperation between Israel, all the various different agencies, and get aid in now. I understand the threats that Israel faces, but right now the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is so great, it needs to be the central focus. Those pauses in fighting, the aid coming in, Israel has to direct that. And they have to do a lot more than they've done. It is a huge crisis right now that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. And, we're also taking a look at former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton. He was on the Hill Sunday earlier, weighing in on the impact that this humanitarian pause would have. Let's take a listen to what he said.
The Israelis have recognized they're losing the information battle here. There's a lot to dispute about some of the stories and even the statistics that the Hamas government of Gaza has been putting out. The UN and the foundation that the Israelis set up to distribute food ought to stop quarreling with one another and focus on getting the food delivered without it being diverted by Hamas for its own political purposes.
Yeah, so a lot of people at this point are asking, is America doing enough to ensure aid is reaching the people most in need in Gaza? I mean, we just saw that video, and is it really our task or responsibility?
Well, it's not chiefly our responsibility. I do think President Trump should be putting more pressure on the Israeli government. I think when President Trump says things like, we're going to put a golf and country resort in Gaza, drive all the Gaza people out, I mean, that just sends the exact wrong message. We certainly support Israel in their fight against Iran and Hamas and Hezbollah and various terrorist groups. But the way the Trump administration has handled this, completely ignoring the plight of the Palestinians, as I said, alluding to plans to basically take the Palestinians off of the land and turn it into a resort, I mean, that just doesn't send the right message. I think the U.S. should be doing much more diplomatically to drive a solution to the humanitarian crisis. And then lastly, and most importantly, we have to find Palestinians to work with as an alternative to Hamas. I think this is the great failing of the current conversation and what I think Prime Minister Netanyahu has failed to do. Yes, it can't be Hamas, but it has to be somebody. And Israel has blocked efforts by Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, other Gulf states to build relationships with Palestinians that are an alternative to Hamas, to build some type of future for the Palestinian people. So I think the U.S. should be pushing much more on all of those issues.
Another topic that we're watching here, President Trump is set to meet with the EU Commissioner President this hour, and I've just gotten word that we are expecting a joint news conference to happen in about 20 minutes. So if you get those live pictures, we will bring that to you, certainly. But what are you expecting to hear from that meeting? All eyes. We've got live pictures now. So we're taking a look right now in Scotland as we're awaiting that joint news presser. But tell us what you make of what's happening there.
Well, I think the trade policy that Trump has put in place is just utter chaos with Europe, with Japan, with countries all over the world, tariffs being put in place, taken off, threatened. I think it has created a level of chaos in the global economy that is very problematic. Even a lot of the deals that President Trump announces are not actually deals. There's nothing signed, nothing going forward. So what I hope is as the president has these conversations, we can stabilize that that and come up with some sort of clear path for what our trade relationship is going to be, certainly in Europe. There are many other trade partners that are caught up in this trade war, but we need stability. We need to have some conversation. Okay, what exactly is it that President Trump wants? Because the chaos is really damaging the economy of our country and Europe and much of the world.
Yeah, another reminder to our viewers, we are taking a live look at Turnberry, Scotland. We just got this video image up. We're waiting for a press conference to take place in about 20 minutes with President Trump there. Meanwhile, in Sweden, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is meeting with Chinese officials tomorrow to negotiate tariff deals. So we're keeping an eye on that as well. So what are you expecting to see there? And really, what do you want to see come out of those meetings?
Well, I think it's the same thing. Like I said, what I want to see is stability. I want to see some idea of what are the tariffs going to be? What is the trade relationship going to be? And look, I know we are in a big competition with China. We are also very dependent upon China, and China's very dependent upon us. You know, a trade war could be costly to both countries. So what I hope to see is some sort of agreement and stability going forward. We need to understand what our objectives are. There are things that we are dependent upon from China. This notion that we can somehow decouple ourselves from China is completely wrong. China is dependent upon us as well, but we need to figure out how to leverage that relationship. And President Trump's approach of simply trying to bully absolutely everybody in the world constantly, you got to have more tools in your toolkit. Yeah, sometimes you need to talk tough, but sometimes you also need to figure out how to cut a deal. You know, 7 months into the Trump presidency, we have not seen that deal-cutting ability, and the economy is beginning to wobble under the pressure of that. So I hope the president will have that conversation with China, just like with the EU, and come up with some sort of economically reasonable plan.
One last thing while I have you, New York mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani shaking up the political landscape here in New York, and he's making national headlines. But, you know, there's also younger Democrats outpacing sitting Democratic mayors in cities like Minneapolis, Seattle, and Albuquerque, some of them running on a progressive platform. So I'm just wondering, while I have you, what do you think it says about the party's establishment leaders? Because many people, you know, have been looking at what's going on with the Dems and just trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you overstated. I don't see that outpacing happening yet. Those elections are ongoing. Those campaigns are ongoing. And look, the Democratic Party is a big tent. We also have Abigail Spanberger nominated for governor of Virginia in a strong position, and Mikey Sherrill nominated for governor of New Jersey in a strong position to win. We have leaders like Alyssa Slotkin, Ruben Gallego, Mark Kelly, Andy Bashir out there talking their message. It's a big tent. I think if you read into it that there's one particular person like Zohran Mamdani who's pulling us in a particular direction, you got a lot of other campaigns going on. What it says overall is the Democratic Party needs to get better. We are not in a strong position right now. We lost to Trump. People are frustrated and concerned about what President Trump is doing. They want to see the Democratic Party come out of this. So people are searching for new answers, and that's going to be an ongoing process. We'll campaign, but I think it's an overstatement to say that Zohran Mamdani somehow represents the Democratic Party. We got a lot of people running in a lot of different places.
Yeah, he's definitely making headlines here in New York City, so a lot of people are paying attention here and wondering what's going on. But I appreciate your perspective. Democratic Congressman from Washington, Adam Smith, always a treat to have you on the program. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the chance.
Thank you. And we will get perspective from the other side of the aisle now. Republican Congressman and member of House and Ways and